Okay, so this story we're diving into, it's really something else. It shows you the absolute worst of the American justice system, but then, believe it or not, also the very best. It's this incredible journey of a wrongful conviction, a decade completely lost, and then one of the most amazing comeback stories you will ever hear. And really, it all comes down to this one totally baffling question. To figure out the answer, we have to go all the way back to a really chaotic night in the winter of 1998. Our story starts in a place called Pleasantville, New York, and what begins as a simple late-night bar fight is about to spiral way out of control and change a lot of lives forever. At the heart of all this, you've got two brothers, Kian and Kayvon. Now, you really got to pay attention to the physical differences here. Kayvon, he's the older one, was noticeably bigger, broader. Kian was the slater of the two. This little detail should have been a massive clue for investigators, but as you're about to see, they just completely ignored it. So as a brawl breaks out in the parking lot, it's the older brother, Kayvon, who pulls out a small knife and actually stabs two guys. He immediately panics, tosses the weapon onto a roof, and just takes off, leaving his completely innocent younger brother to deal with the fallout. So how in the world did all the blame land on Kian? Well, this is where a botched investigation turns into a story of some serious official misconduct. The thing is, from the very beginning, Kian shouldn't have even been on their radar. He had an alibi that wasn't just good, it was rock solid, ironclad, and it was even caught on video. Just look at this timeline. It makes the entire case against him literally impossible. Kian walks into the police station looking for help at 1:12 in the morning. The first 911 call about the stabbing doesn't even come in until 5 minutes after that. There's just no way he could have been in two places at once. So you have to ask, right? Why would police and prosecutors just ignore something so glaringly obvious? The answer, unfortunately, seems to be a pattern of them deliberately hiding evidence. You know, there's this fundamental rule in American law called a Brady disclosure. It basically means prosecutors have to give the defense any evidence that might help prove their client is innocent. In Kian's case, they didn't just bend this rule, they completely shattered it. That surveillance tape that proved Kian's alibi, yeah, that was destroyed. The dispatch audio that confirmed the timeline, they withheld it. And the detective's original handwritten notes from interviews, the ones that probably described a much larger attacker, gone. Every single piece of evidence that pointed to Kian's innocence just, poof, vanished. And if you think it can't get any worse, listen to this. When the actual guy who did it, his brother, Kayvon, tried to confess to the detectives, they didn't arrest him. No. Instead, they actually threatened him, telling him to keep his mouth shut so they could nail down their easy conviction against Kian. It's just unbelievable. So with the truth completely buried, Kian was convicted and sent to prison. And that's where he spent nearly a decade facing this really unique and cruel catch-22 of the parole system. Kian was found guilty of assault and sentenced to 7 to 14 years in a maximum security prison. And even then, standing in front of the judge, facing all those years behind bars, he stood his ground. He insisted he was innocent. And this led him to run smack into something called the innocence penalty. See, to get parole, you're supposed to admit that you're guilty and show that you feel remorse. But how can you possibly show remorse for something you didn't do? So this left Kian with this just impossible choice. He could lie, say I did it, and maybe, just maybe, walk free. Or he could stick to the truth, maintain his innocence, and get denied parole, staying locked up. What would you do? He chose integrity. He refused to lie, and because of that, he was denied parole. He willingly chose to stay in prison rather than say he did something he didn't do. That decision, it just tells you everything you need to know about his character. So the breakthrough in this case didn't come from a courtroom or some hotshot lawyer. No, it came from the one person who knew the truth all along, at a family holiday dinner almost 10 years later. Imagine this. It's Thanksgiving dinner 2007. The guilt has been absolutely crushing his brother Kayvon for nearly a decade. And he finally just breaks. He confesses to the whole family. He admits he was the one with the knife and that his innocent brother was sitting in a jail cell for his crime. That confession was everything. It kicked off a new legal battle, and finally a judge vacated Kian's conviction. And in this perfect moment of poetic justice, he walked out of that court a free man on his 33rd birthday. But Kian's story doesn't end there.
In fact, this is where it goes from a terrible tragedy to an absolute, unbelievable triumph. His life after prison is nothing short of extraordinary.
Keon, of course, sued the state and the police department for what they did to him, and he received a settlement for $5 million. But it's not really about the money. It's what he did with that money and his newfound freedom that is just staggering.
I mean, he didn't just rebuild his life, he launched it into the stratosphere. He graduated with honors from NYU, went on to get a law degree, and opened his own law firm on Wall Street. And as if that's not enough, he also became a super successful restaurateur and a powerful advocate for other people who've been wrongly convicted. And this, right here, is the ultimate validation. A New York judge officially called him a seasoned FOIL lawyer. That's a Freedom of Information law attorney. He specializes in forcing police departments to release their evidence, the very kind of evidence that was hidden away to keep him in prison. The inmate literally became the master of the very system that wronged him.
Keon's story is it's an incredible inspiration. But his survival, his triumph, it took a superhuman level of intelligence and willpower. And it leaves you with this kind of haunting question. How many other innocent people who are just ordinary, who aren't quite so exceptional, how many of them don't make it out?